Arthur Godfrey, who usually comes around with his talent scouts about this time on Monday, is off on a summer holiday. He'll be back with us 3 weeks from tonight on August 29th.
Jimmy, I wish we could make Professor Mitchell as happy as we are. Let's help him find a wife to marry.
I got a better idea. Let's find him a single girl.
How about those kids? They're always talking about love.
I love you truly.
No, not that kind. Young love.
Oh! Truly dear. Skiddy-oop-de-bam, booty-boo-booty-boo-booty-boo-booty-boo-bam.
Welcome to the new college story, Young Love, starring Janet Waldo and Jimmy Lydon, with John Heaston, the Judge Conlon choristers, and Wilbur Hatch in his orchestra.
I love you truly. Truly, 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 so truly dear.
Jimmy, do you know who's here on the campus?
Dean Ferguson?
No, he's been here for 40 years. I mean somebody famous.
Guy Madison?
No, a woman.
Esther Williams?
No, an older woman.
Esther Williams' mother.
Jimmy, be serious. If it hadn't been for this woman, I might never have married you. Because her books taught me so much about romance and love and men.
I give up. Who is this dame you're talking about?
Fanny Phillipott Burns.
Yeah, sure. Fanny Phillipott Burns. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, I'll bet you haven't read a single novel that Fanny Phillipott Burns wrote. I'll bet you never even heard of Fanny Phillipott Burns.
I bet you've never heard of Pee Wee Reese.
What did he write?
We're even.
Jimmy, Fanny Phillipott went to school here at Midwestern. She wrote those great novels, They Seek But Love, and Wrap the Night Around Me.
Yeah.
Then there's her masterpiece. It's so sensitive and delicate and fragile. Softly Flows the Monongahela.
What's it about?
Pittsburgh. Just think, Jimmy. After her lecture tonight, maybe we can meet her in person.
Oh, you're kidding. After I've sweated through lectures since 8 o'clock this morning? Oh, you can't drag me out to one tonight. I don't want to listen to any stuffy old novelist.
What would you rather do?
I know I got an answer for that. Jan, I thought maybe we'd go for a walk down by Mirror Lake, and get better acquainted.
Well, we could get better acquainted while we're listening to Fanny Phillipott Burns.
Fanny would be a distracting influence.
She's an authority on things like getting acquainted.
Well, so am I. Ask me some questions. On this subject, I'm Phi Beta Kappa material.
Jimmy, she's my favorite novelist, and I just couldn't miss seeing her in person.
Okay, go to your old lecture. I'll be down by Mirror Lake getting acquainted by myself.
We all enjoyed it.
Oh, Miss Burns. Oh, I want to tell you that I just loved your lecture.
Why, thank you, dear.
I've read all your novels. I cried in Softly Flows the Monongahela when the Indian princess went to the happy hunting grounds.
I cried when I wrote it, child.
Miss Burns, could I have just 2 minutes alone with you to ask your advice about something secret?
Well, I'm not too old to remember when I was a student on this campus and had my little problems. Close the door. Now, tell me what's the trouble, child.
Miss Burns, you won't tell anybody, will you?
Well, if it's a juicy little secret, I might sneak it into one of my novels.
Oh, you couldn't.
Don't worry, dear. I always mangle the facts enough so they can't sue me.
Miss Burns, I'm married.
And your husband has deserted you?
No.
Then you don't love him. You're like Madeline in Wrap the Night Around Me. You want to run off with another man.
Oh, no.
Then he's cruel. He tortures you. Your life is a turmoil of mental anguish. You suffer like Gretchen in They Seek But Love.
Oh, no, Miss Burns. Jimmy is very sweet and nice, and we're very much in love.
You know, this is pretty dull stuff.
But we have to keep it secret. I'm on a scholarship that's just for single women, and Jimmy promised his father he wouldn't get married until he was a bachelor of arts.
And you're asking yourself, did you do the right thing?
Yes. Miss Burns, do you think we should have waited? He's at the fraternity house, and I have to live at the girls' dorm, and... Well, I don't even know if he snores or not.
Well, I will answer your question by telling you a story about a little girl, much like yourself, who attended this university many years ago.
Yes?
She fell in love with a man here on this campus. There was a difference in their ages, and she thought she would be prudent, deny her love and wait. They drifted apart, and that little girl was left alone with a lamp, a typewriter, and a hollow thing called fame.
It was you, Miss Burns.
How did you guess? Do you know why I've returned to Midwestern? Not to lecture alone. That little girl has come back to claim her first love.
Oh, are you really marrying somebody here at Midwestern?
Mm-hmm. I can't possibly tell you who it is, but he's proposed to me, and I've agreed to become his blushing bride.
Oh, Miss Burns, can an old married lady like me wish you much happiness?
Oh, thank you, child. You can read all about my honeymoon in my new novel, Other Mornings, Other Noons.
You've written all about your honeymoon even before you've had it?
Well, my publishers thought it would be better copy that way.
What does the title mean? Other Mornings, Other Noons.
Who knows? Nobody buys a book these days if the title makes sense. Anyhow, it'll be out in September, and it's $2.85 COD. And I just happen to have an order blank with me.
Jimmy, I sympathize with you.
Well, do you think I was a crumb not to go to the lecture with Jan?
I congratulate you, Einstein. Any man who declares himself against Fanny Philipot Burns should be photographed for a liquor ad. I stayed at her lecture for 10 minutes, but that was all I could take. My stomach got unsteady.
Isn't she supposed to be a great novelist?
Fanny Philipot Burns couldn't write her way out of a paper bag. In her novels, all the women suffer, all the men are heels, and all the writing is from hunger.
You don't think much of her, do you?
I'll say this much for her. She punctuates beautifully. Brother, what Fanny Philipot Burns has done to the English language shouldn't happen to Sanskrit.
Jimmy, I think I just made a great discovery.
Well, what are you doing with that book, Jan?
Some literary detective work. Listen to how Fanny Philipot Burns describes Professor Storm in her first novel. I looked up into the professor's strong face. He was tall, witty, blonde. He had the mind of a Socrates and the body of a Red Grange. I looked up into his strong face again, and I said to myself, I love him. This is the man I love. I love him. I love him. Yes, I love him. Jimmy, what do you get from this?
She loves him.
But who is it? Who is the professor? Tall, blonde, popular, built like a football player.
Could be Mitch.
That's it, Mitch. That's exactly the way I figure it. Nobody else on the faculty is anything like that.
Well, you mean you think Fanny, what's her name, has the GBs for Mitch?
It's obvious. The preface says this novel is frankly autobiographical.
Well, I can tell you frankly that Mitch does not have the same GBs for Fanny.
They're just getting married, that's all.
Well, you're crazy. Mitch can't stomach her. He went to her lecture, stayed 10 minutes, and couldn't take any more.
Of course, he was overcome with emotion. There was his old sweetheart on the platform, and he couldn't reach her. He got all choked up.
Well, that isn't exactly the way Mitch put it.
Jimmy, it all adds up. Mitch stood up with us and helped us with our wedding plans. Now we've got to do the same for him.
Jan, honey, where did you get all this marriage talk?
I got it straight from the horse's mouth. Fanny told me.
Professor Mitchell.
Yes, Dean Ferguson?
Mitchell, I've called you into my office to discuss the relationship between a man and a woman.
That can be an interesting subject for discussion. Shall I close the door?
Mitchell, you may think of me as something of an old fuddy-duddy.
Oh, no, Dean Ferguson.
No, don't butter me up. I know some of the things that are said about me at the faculty club. I even know that some of the students have on occasion referred to me as walrus puss.
Not for a minute.
Let's not be kind, Mitchell. This may strain your imagination, but there was a time when my puss wasn't quite so walrusy. Matter of fact, in my younger days, I looked very much like you. I was blonde then, before these locks turned to gray, what's left of them. I was athletic then. Didn't have this. Could see my feet. Even played a little football. Center field. Didn't have shoulder pads in those days. Bare-knuckle stuff. Extremely rough and tumble.
Why, Dean, this is a side of you I didn't know existed.
Well, Mitchell, there's a visitor on the campus at the moment who knew that side of me very well. In fact, when she was a student here and I a young professor, we were quite chummy. I believe that's the word they use nowadays.
Fanny Philipot Burns.
How did you know?
I just put two and two together.
You don't think that anybody else, there aren't any rumors afoot. Do you think anybody suspects?
I don't think so.
Fanny was a little indiscreet in one of her first novels. Have you read They Seek But Love?
Yes.
You like it?
I loved it.
Mitchell, I may as well let the cat out of the bag. I am the handsome, dashing, muscular Professor Storm. Please don't tell anybody.
Well, your secret is safe with me.
Now, after 19 years, I've asked Fanny the question I should have asked her 19 years ago, and she's accepted me. After 19 years.
Sounds like a red-hot thing.
No, mind you, I'm proud to have Fanny as my bride, but there are factions among the trustees who would consider Fanny a woman of notoriety. So I feel we should keep our marriage a secret until President Wrightson decides what he's going to do about his health.
Well, what does President Wrightson have to do with it?
Well, of course, we're all disturbed about President Wrightson's illness, but he is an older man. And if his health should take a turn for the worse, my name has been mentioned as a possible successor as president of the university.
Aha! Gotcha. We don't want Fanny to stand in the way of your being President Ferguson.
It does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I can hardly ask the dear girl to wait any longer.
Hardly.
Mitchell, I need your help. Would you scour around quite discreetly, of course, and find a suitable marrying official, arrange the time and place, and stand up with us? In short, I'm asking you to help Fanny and me get hitched.
Jan, Jimmy, I want you to do me a favor.
Anything you say, Mitch.
You name it.
I want you to get in touch with that justice of the peace who married you.
A justice of the peace.
What for?
A wedding. What do you think? I want to register a horse?
Oh, don't you worry about it, Mitch. You've got enough on your mind. We'll get him for you.
Leave it to us.
Swell, kids. See if he can come to my apartment tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock.
We'll get him.
He'll be there.
Great. Hey, keep this kind of on the QT, huh?
Sure thing.
See you later.
So long, Mitch.
Well, I'll be darned.
What did I tell you?
Well, I guess you're right. Mitch must have the GBs for Fanny Philipot. But, honey, how can a guy marry a gal when all he likes about her is her punctuation?
In just a moment, we'll rejoin Jan and Jimmy in Young Love. Yes, it's Monday night again. Time for another breakfast with Burroughs just a little later this evening. That's Abe Burroughs. He gets up late. But tonight, Abe will surely be up for breakfast because the birdie will wake him, a most famous little bird, the one that lovely songstress Evelyn Knight has made so popular. Yes, Evelyn Knight will be Abe Burrows' guest tonight. So, for some swell singing and some masterly wit, don't miss tonight's Breakfast with Burrows on most of these same CBS stations. Now back to Jimmy and Jan and the second act of Young Love.
Oh, the old gray bean, he ain't what he used to be, ain't what he used to be, ain't what he used to be. The old gray bean, he ain't what he used to be 19 years ago.
But he thinks he is. How can any gal get romantic about old Walrus Puss? When you come right down to it, how can old Walrus Puss make calf eyes at that literary gravel Gertie? Well, all I can say is they deserve each other.
It was awfully nice of you to come, Sam.
All the way from Circleville.
Oh, I'm very flattered. A justice of the peace is just like anybody else. And when satisfied customers come back for a second marriage, well, it's just like a plumber who gets a second call to fix a leaky faucet.
This marriage may be very much like a leaky faucet.
Jimmy.
Gee, I hope you don't think I drove too hard a bargain asking for my bus fare, but I only get $2 for the service, you know, and with the fare 85 cents, well, that'd knock an awful hole in my profit.
I think you were very fair about the fare.
Fair about the fare. Oh, fair about the fare. Oh, I see. Oh, you made a funny.
Oh, right in here. This is Mitch's apartment.
Oh, nice. Well, where's the happy pair?
Oh, we're a little early.
Good. Then you can tell me something about the victims. Well, that's not the word, really. You know, it's funny, I haven't been at this game long enough to know exactly what to call the people I do it to. It's real strange. Folks come to me just ordinary people, and when they go out, they're all married and everything. You know, sometimes I wonder how I do it. It makes me feel just like Superman.
Well, you remember Mitch.
Mitch?
Oh, he was the witness at our wedding. He stood up with us.
He was my best man.
Oh, sure, a little fat fellow with a vest.
No, Mitch is tall and blond, and he has shoulders like a football player.
Oh, well, I'll know him when I see him. How about the bride?
Well, Fanny Philippot Burns.
Fanny Philippot Burns? The eminent novelist?
Well, she writes books.
Well, she's my favorite authoress. Didn't she write Wrap the Monongahela Around Me?
Something like that.
Gosh, you know, I've heard that some people swoon about movie stars like Frank Sinatra and Betty Grable, but any day of the week, give me Louis Bromfield and Fanny Philippot Burns. Oh.
Is she really so great?
Great? Why, she's the Charlotte Bronte of Pittsburgh.
Well, that's exactly the way I feel. And to think she'll be Fanny Philippot Burns Mitchell.
Gosh, I'm so nervous. Do you know this is going to be the most famous wedding since Rita Hayworth married that Allie Cohen? Oh, dear. Golly, I only hope I don't flub this job. Gosh, what if I say the wrong thing? A novelist like that knows so many words.
Gee, Jimmy, at a time like this, I realize how lucky we are.
Yeah.
Just think. For 19 years, all she had was a typewriter.
Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm just so nervous.
Oh, I know what'll smooth over everything. I'll put on some music. Every wedding should have some music.
Good idea. Do you suppose Mitch has the wedding march in his record collection?
I hardly think so. It's not the kind of thing you use every day.
Well, here's Bop Me, Mr. Basie with a basic bounce.
No, I don't think so.
Here's the Missouri Waltz.
But Mitch is from Michigan and Fanny is from Pittsburgh.
Not only that, I think she's a Republican.
Oh, here they are.
Oh, my goodness, I'm all pit-a-pat.
Oh.
Come in.
Good afternoon.
It's the bride.
Oh, Miss Burns.
Yes?
Miss Fanny Burns?
Yes?
Miss Fanny Philippot Burns?
Yes?
May I touch you?
Where?
the justice of the peace who's going to marry you to the man you've loved all these years.
Well, don't make it sound quite so long.
Miss Burns, I do want you to know how thrilled I am, and I hope I'll do it all right. My name is Sam.
Sam. How romantic.
Oh, I'm so nervous.
What are these two children doing here? My fiancé told me this was going to be a private and secret ceremony.
Oh, don't worry. We won't give your secret away. He stood up for us, and we're going to stand up for him.
He was at your wedding, and he's known all along about you two.
Oh, sure. Your bridegroom's a real hep guy.
Hep? Hep? Oh, maybe I've got a surprise coming. Maybe he's better preserved than I thought.
Oh, dear, I'm so nervous.
Now, calm down, Dean Ferguson.
You've got the ring. Have you got the ring?
For the 14th time, yes. Now, don't expect an arbor of lilies in my apartment. I haven't had time to fancy things up. I don't even think the bed's made.
Don't worry about it, Mitchell. Have you got the ring?
What would you do if I said no?
Please, Mitchell, I'm in no condition for levity. One other thing. You're positive nobody connected with the faculty or student body knows what I'm doing?
I don't think you even know what you're doing yourself.
Well, it's better that way. Well, my hopes for the presidency hang on absolute secrecy. I don't suppose there's any way we can do this thing without telling Fanny.
That would be tough.
She's not very good at keeping secrets. Have you got the ring?
Come on in, Dean. Let's get this over with before I do lose it.
Hi, Mitch.
Hello, Mitch. Oh, hello, Dean Ferguson.
Mitchell, what are these students doing here?
We just brought the justice of the peace.
I'm certainly very pleased to make your acquaintance, Professor. I hope you don't mind if we do this job pretty snappy-like, but I've got to catch the bus back to Circleville.
That's all right with us.
Oh, Mitchell, we can't go through this thing in front of these children.
Now, let me see. I guess everybody knows everybody. Oh, of course, you know the bride. Naturally, you'd know the bride. You're marrying her.
Now, just a minute.
Don't say anything with all these people here. Hello, Fanny.
Hello, Bertie.
Oh, Jimmy, this is so romantic. I'll bet you I'm going to cry.
Kids, you don't need to stay if you've got anything else to do.
Wild horses couldn't drag us away.
Well, shall we take a whack at it? You know, time, tide, and bus schedules wait for no man. Now, will you stand, please? Right here in front of me.
Is this where you want me?
Fine. Would you mind stepping forward, sir?
Me?
If you don't mind.
You want me to stand alongside the bride?
Well, when I marry people, I like to think of them going through life side by side, not single file.
Marry people. Hey, Sam, hold everything.
Now, Mitchell, don't make a scene. Maybe this is an act of providence.
But Dean, you mean you want me to...
Now,
Now, Mitch, we know how you feel, but don't be nervous.
It'll be over before you know it, pal.
Oh, yes. Shall we begin?
Look, you don't...
Mitchell, give me the ring. I'll hold it for you.
Dean Ferguson, I can't do this to you.
Do this to me. You're saving my life.
You know, I don't have a very clear picture of what's happening.
Sammy, you've got to understand. I can't marry you with these students watching.
Well, you certainly can't expect me to marry her.
Now, just a minute, you bounder.
Huh?
You can't trifle with the affections of my favorite novelist, this fragile flower from Pittsburgh. Why, I've read every book she ever wrote.
Oh, you nice man.
Oh, thanks.
Which one did you like best?
Look, she's supposed to get married to Dean Ferguson.
Mitchell, for heaven's sake.
Dean Ferguson.
You mean Fanny's got the jeebies for the dean?
Why, Miss Burns, I wouldn't marry you to this old goat.
What? No.
Why, you're a woman with a volcano in your soul.
What a nice way of putting it. Young man, you should write.
Well, I've got all kinds of swell ideas. You know, for a long time I've been wanting to write a novel about some people, and they're together, see? And I haven't figured out exactly what happens after that. But I've got to... What?
Write your novel someplace else.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's get down to fundamentals. Who's marrying who?
We could flip.
Miss Burns, you ought to have some say in this.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of interfering. This is more exciting than reading one of my own books. Why, I can see the whole plot. 2 men and a beautiful woman, and they all get married. I've got just the title, 3 Tickets to Paradise.
Where do I get a transfer? I'm going the other way.
Oh, my goodness, this is even more confusing than the time I married these 2 kids.
Oh,
hey.
Sam.
What? You mean these 2 students are married?
Oh, didn't you know? Yes, they're my first. I cut my teeth on them.
Oh, don't.
Sam.
Well, you shouldn't have told.
Aren't you the Shaw girl who's on the Cora Groover scholarship?
Oh, yes, but...
That's explicitly for single women.
Oh, but you won't tell anybody, will you, Dean?
Don't tell anybody. I'm the anybody that nobody's supposed to tell.
Dean, don't take it out on these kids. They were just trying to help me help you get married.
Help me. They've not only been of no assistance, they engaged this moronic dignitary, eradicated the secretiveness of the entire project. And not only that, they've loused up the whole darn thing. Come on, Fanny.
Wait a minute. How about my fee and my bus fare? I was promised $2.85.
All right. Here's your money.
And here's an order form for my latest novel. Sign where it says name.
Well, aren't you sweet?
That'll be $2.85.
$2.85. You know, I don't think I'm a very good businessman.
We'll return to the campus of Midwestern University in just a moment. You know, it's no picnic when they leave it to Joan Davis, that is, but somehow they do. And tonight, Joan manages to get herself hilariously lost on a picnic and treasure hunt for her fellow department store employees. If you're ready to laugh, stay tuned now for Leave It to Joan, starring Joan Davis, who'll be along on most of these same CBS stations immediately following Young Love. Now, back to the campus of Midwestern University.
Sit down, Mr. Lewis, Miss Shaw, or perhaps I should say Mr. and Mrs. Lewis.
Dean Ferguson, I know why you called us into your office, and I don't care what you do to me. Kick me out of school if you want to, but don't do anything to Jan.
Oh, no, Dean Ferguson. I know you'll have to take away my scholarship, but don't blame Jimmy.
Oh, very noble, very commendable, but I want you to know that I intend to do something that I have never done in my 40 years in the academic world. I intend to blink.
Blink?
Blink?
Blink. I intend to blink at the fact you 2 children are married.
Oh, Dean.
However, I expect the 2 of you to blink back. I think you already suspect that my interest in Fanny is somewhat more than literary. You might as well know the thing whole hog. Last night, we drove over to East Liverpool and found a justice of the peace in his right mind.
And now you're Mr. and Mrs. Fanny Philipot Burns Ferguson.
Yes.
Oh, congratulations, Dean. I hope you'll be as happy as we are.
Well, that's really why I called you in. You see, we have to keep our marriage secret. Now, since Fanny's living at the hotel and I'm staying at the faculty club, well,
it's the same way with us. I'm at the fraternity house,
And I'm at the girls' dorm.
I know. That's why I need your advice. Kids, how do you swing it?
You'll hear Young Love, the new CBS college story, every week at the same time, starring Jimmy Lydon and Janet Waldo, with John Heaston, Bea Benaderet, Jerry Hausner, Herb Butterfield, your announcer Roy Rowan, the Judd Conlon choristers, and the music of Elliot Daniel, conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Young Love is written and directed by Lawrence and Lee. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Mr. Lewis, you remind me of a great big collie dog.
Mrs. Lewis, I've got only one thing to say to you.
What?
Ain't that awful? But I guess that's the way married folks act when they're in love.
I love you truly.
Not so barbershop, boys. This is Young Love.
Oh. Truly dear.
Welcome to the new college story, Young Love, starring Janet Waldo and Jimmy Lydon, with John Heaston, the Judd Conlon choristers, and Wilbur Hatch and his orchestra.
I love you truly, 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 so truly, dear.
Larry, wake up. Hey, wake up.
Go away, Ingrid. Please, Ingrid, not tonight. I won't kiss you again, Ingrid.
Larry, I gotta talk to you. Wake up, will you?
Huh? Oh, it's you. Fine thing. I wake up and what do I find in my room? My roommate. What time is it?
3:15.
What?
Larry, I got a very important question to ask you.
At 3:15 in the morning, it better be important. Well?
Do you have trouble sleeping nights?
Who sleeps at a fraternity house? You may not learn anything in college, but you can look back on 4 nice years of insomnia.
Well, I'm going crazy.
Jimmy, please, as a favor to me, go crazy in the daytime.
I got a problem, Larry, and it gets much worse at night.
Is it a girl?
Well, sort of.
There is no such thing as sort of a girl. It's either a girl or it isn't a girl.
It's a girl.
Well, marry her and let me get some sleep.
You see, I've got to figure out some way that I can... Larry, you're not listening to me. Don't go to sleep.
I could go to sleep and listen to you at the same time.
My pal. Gratitude. And this is the guy I gave the Argyle socks to that my Aunt Esther knitted for me that were too small. Larry, what's the phone number at the girls' dorm?
Jimmy, you're not going to call up the girls' dorm at 3:15 in the morning.
3:20.
Well, Mrs. Gilly is a terror when aroused, and brother, are you going to arouse her?
What's the number?
8651W. And stand well back from the telephone.
651W. They must be asleep.
Yes?
May I speak to Janet Shaw, please? It's very important.
This is a young ladies' dormitory, and we close at 10:30. These are university rules.
But this is a very important matter.
I just looked at my watch. It's 3:20 in the morning.
I know. Did I wake you?
Oh, no. I've been out playing lawn tennis on the shores of Mirror Lake with the Dean of Men. Did I wake you, he says.
Well, may I speak to Janet Shaw? It's a matter of life or death.
Well, it better be a matter of life or death, or it'll be your death, Mr. Whoever you are. I'll call her.
I think she's displeased.
Kid, what do you expect on the telephone at 3:20 in the morning? The giant jackpot?
Well, that's what the telephone was invented for, to reach people when you got to talk to them.
Yeah, but some people have very narrow ideas about being reached at 3 in the morning.
Hello?
Hello, honey.
Jimmy,
Yeah, it's me.
what's wrong? Who died?
Nobody except me. I'm dying inside.
Well, there must be something terribly wrong for you to call at this time of the night.
Well, Jan, there's something awfully important I want to talk to you about. You see, you can go back to sleep, Larry.
Oh, I'm wide awake now.
Just a minute, Jan. I gotta close the door. Honey, we can't go on like this. It's unbearable.
Well, it's pretty uncomfortable for me, too. I'm standing here barefooted on a cold floor.
Well, that's just it. We could be standing barefooted on a cold floor together.
Jimmy, I know this is putting an awful strain on our marriage, but we've got to keep it secret.
Well, I'd feel better if we were just in the same building.
Well, I don't think I could move into the fraternity house. Do you want to move into the girls' dorm?
Jan, we gotta get a place.
A place?
somewhere we can be man and wife together instead of separately.
Oh, Jimmy, you know I feel the same way, but we can't afford a place. Rents are terribly high these days.
Well, I'll get a job.
That's very noble.
You think I'm noble?
Just terribly noble.
Hey, Einstein, be noble in the daytime. Turn out the light.
How do you like it, honey?
The Highway 59 Motel. Fireproof.
One of these cabins can be our first home together, if they're not too expensive.
It's kind of far from campus.
Only a mile and a quarter, and it's downhill all the way.
And it's uphill all the way back.
Well, I figured we had to get out of town a little ways, or we can't keep it secret. We wouldn't want any faculty members dropping in on us.
Except maybe Mitch.
Well, here's the office.
I suppose you're going to tell me you're man and wife.
Well, we are.
Let me see your marriage license.
Well, I don't have it right here in my sweater.
Well, we're very strict in this here motel. Don't take no married folks unless they're married.
Oh, we could go back and get our marriage license.
What state you from?
Ohio.
Ohio. What town?
Oh, right here, just up the road.
Well, now, this is a treat. All we get here is New Mexico folks going to Massachusetts, or Massachusetts folks going to New Mexico. Hometown folks are real strangers.
I'll bet.
My name is Fernie, with an E. Most folks spell it like furnace, with a U. But I'm Fernie, with an E.
I'm Lewis, with a W.
Now about this marriage business. I'll take your word for it, because you act kind of sneaky-like. Folks come up to this desk and look me straight in the eye. I don't trust them.
How much is a cabin?
$3 a night.
Gee, is there a weekly rate?
Oh, sure. Be happy to make you a weekly rate. $21.
Oh, that's too much, Jimmy. Let's go.
We got inner spring mattresses with inner springs. Hot and cold running water. All you got to do is go out to the spigot and draw a bucket full.
Yeah, but your price is too steep.
Well, say now, I think I can save you some money. We only charge $1.50 a night if you got a trailer.
We haven't got a trailer.
Well, you folks certainly are lucky. I just happen to have a slightly used trailer here. Let you have it for $600.
Mister.
Oh, little beauty. Cost $800 new in 1932.
We don't want a trailer.
Now, think of the money you're going to save. $1.50 every single night. Money in the bank. While you live here in that trailer for 10 years, you're going to be a rich man.
Oh, Mr. Fernie, you're awfully kind, but I don't think Jimmy and I can afford...
Jan, listen, honey, we just gotta find a way. $21 a week isn't the national debt.
It is if you haven't got it.
Well, I'll get a job. I don't care if I have to sweep the streets or clean sewers or collect garbage.
If you're thinking along them lines, you'll want a cabin with a shower. They run $22.50.
I'm the man in this family, and I'm making this decision. We'll take one of those cabins.
The cheaper, the better.
All righty, you follow me. Now, folks who stay here on a weekly basis got to sign the inventory form. This will be your cabin, number 13.
Number 13.
It's a honey. Got a nice view of the driveway. Step right in.
It's kind of small.
Yeah, that's our big selling point. You can lie in bed and reach everything in the room. Well, now here we go with the inventory, huh? 1 bed, 1 table, 1 throw rug, 4 chairs.
There are only 3 chairs.
What did you do with the other chairs?
What?
Huh?
I can't have folks moving here and carrying off chairs. Right off the bat, 1 chair gone.
Mister.
Oh, folks don't realize what landlord's got to put up with nowadays.
We never saw your chair.
Likely story. You see that you done run off with nothing else. All right. 1 pair of window curtains. And 1 frame color print to the Vanishing American. Sign here.
Gee, Jimmy, this is actually going to be our home, the first place we've lived in.
I gotta carry you over the threshold.
Just a minute, Bud. Until you pay me $21, it ain't your threshold.
Jan, honey, we can move in. We can pay for the cabin.
Well, Jimmy, what happened?
I got a job. Go tell Mr. Fernie with an E we got some cash with a K.
Oh, You just got the job and they've already paid you?
Well, I don't get paid till Saturday, but as a substantial and dependable wage earner, I guess my credit ought to be good. Well, I don't get paid till Saturday, but as a substantial and dependable wage earner, I guess my credit ought to be good.
Where are you working?
I'm a white-collar man with the Fleetfoot people.
What?
Oh, that's a bicycle factory where they make Fleetfoot bicycles. And I don't just punch a clock. I'm on a salary.
Oh, Jimmy, that's wonderful. How much do you make a week?
$15. And that's for only 6 days' work.
What are your hours?
Well, I'm on the last half of the swing shift every night, 8:30 to midnight, except Saturdays.
And on Saturdays, you only work half a day, huh?
Yeah, that's right, half a day. Plus 8:30 to midnight.
Oh, Jimmy, that's going to make you awfully tired for your early morning classes.
Well, I don't care. It's going to make it possible for you and me to have a home and live together like married people should.
But even so, Jimmy, we'll be going backwards at the rate of $6 a week.
Well, at least we'll be going backward together.
Hi, Jan. What are you chasing me for? You've already got a husband.
Have you seen him? Have you seen Jimmy?
The last time I saw Jimmy was when he cut my journalism class this morning.
Oh, Mitch, don't be too hard on him. He's working every night until midnight, making bicycles.
Well, I suppose that's all right for a young married man to spend every night making bicycles.
Well, you see, Mitch, it all started when we decided to take up light housekeeping.
Have you found a lighthouse?
Oh, we've moved into the Route 59 motel. Of course, I have to be back at the dorm every night, but Jimmy and I can spend all of our free time there. Just like a real married couple.
What do they sock you for a suite at this highway Waldo?
$21.
Wow.
But Jimmy's getting $15 from the Fleetfoot people, and Mitch, I got a job.
Really?
Just now. I haven't even had a chance to tell Jimmy yet.
Where can you be reached during business hours?
At the High Street Cafeteria. I'm a checker during the dinner rush. I work from my last class until 8 o'clock, and I get $16 a week.
$1 more than your husband. Great.
We're making a grand total of $31 a week. The cabin's only $21, so we'll have $10 clear profit.
Wait a minute, Jan. There's a hole in this thing somewhere. In order to rent a place to spend some time together, you kids have got yourselves booked up solid under the Wagner Act.
What do you mean?
Look, you work at the cafeteria from 4 to 8. Then Jimmy makes bicycles from 8:30 till midnight.
That's terrible. And he works Saturdays, and I work Sunday.
Between the bicycles and the blue plate specials, you'll be lucky if you get to shake hands before graduation.
We'll return to Janet and Jimmy and the second act of Young Love in just a moment. Bob Crosby, a CBS star in his own right, will be Abe Burrows' special guest on Breakfast with Burrows tonight. Breakfast with Burrows follows the fun of Joan Davis's latest escapades as a department store salesgirl on Leave It to Joan, these Monday nights in the familiar Lux Radio Theater hour. Be sure to hear Breakfast with Burrows and Leave It to Joan, a wonderful hour of hilarious comedy, tonight on most of these same CBS stations. Now back to Janet and Jimmy and the second act of Young Love.
Oh, you take the day shift, and I'll take the night shift, and I'll get my paycheck for you. But me and my true love will never meet again in the Highway 59 motel. Fireproof.
James Lewis, shake my hand.
Oh, sure, Mr. Armstead.
You are now officially a member of the Fleetfoot family.
Oh, it's going to be fun to help you make bicycles.
Never mention that word.
What word?
Bicycles. In this factory, they are known as Fleet Feet.
Fleet Feet?
And every two-wheeler that rolls off our assembly line goes to join the mighty Fleet Feet fleet.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Now, Lewis, our assembly line here at Fleetfoot has been planned by an efficiency expert. And each complete job down the assembly line is called a trip.
Trip?
And your job will be to make out the slips which give the specifications for each Fleetfoot.
I see. I make out the trip slips for the fleet feet.
I like that. You're quick. Now, if it's going to be a red Fleetfoot, you make out a blue trip slip.
Blue for red, yeah.
And if it's going to be a blue Fleetfoot, you make out a red trip slip.
Red for blue.
Now, if it's going to be a yellow Fleetfoot, you make out a yellow trip slip.
Somebody slipped up there.
At Fleetfoot, we don't question the efficiency expert. Of course, since we've had this system, we don't turn out as many bicycles as we used to. But we sure have speeded up the paperwork.
Well, I suppose that's really more important.
Now, let's get on to mudguards.
Mudguards?
If the order specifies one stripe on the mudguard, you punch 2 holes in the trip slip.
2 for 1.
But for 2 stripes on the mudguards, punch 1 hole in the trip slip.
1 for 2.
Now, if the order calls for no stripe on the mudguard,
I punch 3 holes in the trip slip.
4.
Sure is some system.
Lewis, you are going to be a key man here at Fleetfoot because our whole assembly line operation is a direct result of the way you select, mark, and punch the trip slips. And Lewis, Fleetfoot expects every man to do his duty.
On my honor, I will do my best.
Honey, you're gonna hate it here.
I am?
Working in this cafeteria is like being in prison. Only the food ain't so good.
Well, I want to do the best I can.
Oh, an eager one. Well, here's what you gotta do, honey. You're the relief checker. You take my place when I have to go out and comb my hair.
I see.
Then you sit up here on this stool by the cash register and add up everything the poor suckers bring by on their trays. Come on over here. I'll introduce you to the food.
Fine.
Those brown rocks are biscuits. 3 cents.
3 cents.
That gray stuff over there that looks and smells like fish, that's steak. 15 cents.
That's reasonable for steak.
Well, not when it's 90% tuna fish. Now, this stuff that looks like wet wood ashes, that's mashed potatoes. We get 7 cents for a dab of that. Now, if they're fools enough to try to hide the taste with some gravy, it's an extra penny for this rubber cement.
You don't make it sound very appetizing.
I don't make it taste very appetizing. Now we come to desserts. This candle wax is tapioca pudding. 9 cents, and don't put a match to it. This plastic stuff is pie, 11 cents. Now, a few hearty souls take a little bit of everything. That's known as the blue plate special.
What do you get for that?
49 cents and a bad case of cramps.
Gee, it's complicated.
Now, suppose you take over for a while, honey, and get the hang of the thing. I'm going out and comb my hair.
All right.
Oh, here comes a customer.
I'll try to keep the prices straight.
Oh, no.
What's wrong?
He's taking that slice of watermelon that's been sitting there for a month. Well, be kind to him. He eats here every night, and I don't think he has long to live.
Oh, dear. Pie, 11 cents. Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Why?
I've been coming to this cafeteria for 5 years. And this is the first time anybody ever said anything nice to me.
You've been coming here for 5 years? You must like the food.
No, but my stomach is used to it.
And now let's see, you've got 2 biscuits at 3 cents each. That's 6 cents. And a pat of butter is a penny. That's 7 cents. And the steak is 15 cents. That's 22. And
Lady, I'm hungry.
Did I say 21 or 22? 22 and I've forgotten how much coffee is.
That's not coffee. It's oatmeal.
Well, that's 8 and 22 and let me see, watermelon.
Miss, if you're going to take so long, I'm going to start eating right here.
Oh, please don't eat anything or I'll lose track.
I'll leave my mouth open.
At 34 and 5 is 39. That'll be 39 cents.
38.
I added it up very carefully. It's 39.
It's 38. What are you trying to do, rob me?
No, but those are the prices, and that's what I have to charge.
All right. I'm through. I'm fed up. You eat the food. I'm taking my business to Thrifty's.
Mr. Fernie, have you seen my wife?
She just left the cabin.
Oh, gosh, I ran all the way from my last class just to see her.
Well, she said she waited as long as she could, and she'd have to run all the way to the cafeteria. Surprised you two didn't run into each other, head on.
Mr. Fernie, have you seen Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, I ran all the way from the cafeteria.
He's running all the way to the bicycle factory.
Oh, I missed him again.
For a Mr. and a Mrs., you two sure are missing.
Mitch, have you seen Jan?
Sure.
Everybody gets to see my wife but me.
Well, she's at work now, isn't she?
She's always at work, or I'm at work, or she's in class, or I'm in class, or she's in the dorm and I'm at the fraternity house. Honest, Mitch, I'm beginning to forget what my wife looks like.
Well, she's pretty. Getting a little gray around the temples, but I think you'll still recognize her. You getting any use out of the Highway 59 motel?
Well, we're working so hard paying for it that we haven't had any time there together.
You use the cabin at all?
Well, sure, we just sit there and look at each other.
We?
Me and the vanishing American.
Larry!
Hiya, beautiful.
Have you seen Jimmy around?
You mean the Alfred P. Sloan of the bicycle business?
Oh, I'll probably miss him again this afternoon, but will you give him a message?
Well, I don't know if he can be reached. After all, he's a big wheel at the bicycle plant.
Larry, would you ask Jimmy to have dinner at the High Street cafeteria so I can get a chance to just see what he looks like?
Oh, no, I wouldn't send my worst enemy to eat down there. Do you know all the food they serve is Army surplus?
Mr. Fernie, I can hardly believe it, but in a few more minutes, I'm actually going to see my wife.
When am I actually going to see my $21?
Oh, well, I'll have it for you at midnight tonight. That's when I get my paycheck.
Well, don't stop off on the way home and drink it all up at some soda fountain. Hey, I got some nice news for you. A friend of yours moved into the cabin right next door.
A friend?
Yeah, Professor Wilson, with an I. He seems real interested to know there was a couple of married students living next door. Seemed mighty anxious to meet you.
You didn't tell him we were married.
Why not? Ain't you married?
Well, for you we're married, Mr. Fernie, but for Professor Wilson, we're still as single as they come.
Some hanky-panky going on here. The way I look at it, married folks are married folks. Professor Wilson or not.
Oh, you gotta understand, Professor Wilson is in charge of scholarships, and he could kick Jan out of school.
I could kick you out of this motel, too.
Oh, no, Mr. Fernie, please. Jan and I have been working all week so we could get together.
Oh, I've been suspicious of you two all along. Figured you was up to something.
Oh, please, don't throw us out.
Well, I don't want to say hi to Harry, you half-married, half-single folks again. Except to bring me my $21.
Oh.
What's the matter, Louis? You look a little liverish.
Well, I just got thrown out of the thing I got this job to pay for.
Well, I hope we're keeping our minds on our work, getting those trip slips out triple fast.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's the spirit, Louis. When you're a member of the Fleetfoot family, you've got to live, sleep, and eat Fleetfoot.
It just about amounts to that, Mr. Olmsted.
You should be proud, boy. Remember, Fleetfoot is the only bicycle in the world approved by the American Dental Association.
Well, I've already turned out 1,000 trip slips.
1,000? Why, Louis, you're another Bert Ossiker.
Bert Ossiker?
Bert is the Horatio Alger of the Fleetfoot family. When he first came with us, he sat at that very desk where you're sitting now. He made out trip slips for 7 years. And he did the job so well, do you know what happened to him?
What?
They moved him over to that desk. I tell you, it's a great story of progress and advancement. And do you know that in just 7 more years, Bert Ossiker was moved up to the spoke room? And do you know that in just 7 more years, Bert Ossiker was moved up to the spoke room?
Gosh, where is he now? He must be president of the company.
Well, not quite. The efficiency expert didn't like Bert's face, so we fired him.
Well, I guess it just goes to show you.
It certainly does. Yeah. Trip slips, Homestead speaking. What? They did what? How many? Which? With what? Oh, no! I'll take care of it immediately. I'll deal with the party responsible. Lewis!
Something wrong?
Where has your mind been, Lewis, while you were punching those trip slips?
What did I do?
What did you do? Fleetfoot has just manufactured the only bicycle in the world with 1 wheel, 4 mudguards, purple spokes, and 3 sets of handlebars. Lewis, you're fired.
Fired? Well, do I at least get severance pay?
Severance pay? Certainly not. But we might give you the bicycle.
We'll be back with Young Love in just a moment. Better living for all. That's the goal of the American economic system. And better living for all is possible under this system more than under any other. Working together to produce more per man, per machine, per hour results in benefits we all share. For your free copy of the booklet Miracle of America, write to Box 10, Times Square Station, New York City. Now, stay tuned for Joan Davis starring in Leave It to Joan, which follows immediately after Young Love on most of these same CBS stations. Now, back to the campus of Midwestern University.
Jimmy!
Oh, Jan, it's wonderful to see you.
Oh, it's been such a long time.
Let me look at you. You got the same hair, and the same eyes, and the same nose, and the same lips. Yep, same lips.
But, Jimmy, I've got wonderful news.
So have I.
Oh, mine first. I got promoted at the cafeteria. I'm making $18 a week now. And I'm no longer just the relief checker. I'm the main checker.
Well, what happened to the other girl?
Yesterday, during rush hour, she went out to comb her hair, and she never came back.
Well, guess what happened to me?
Well, something wonderful, I'll bet.
You said it. I got fired.
Oh, Jimmy, that's awful.
Well, no, it isn't. It's a $5 raise.
How can that happen?
Well, I was getting $15 a week working for the Fleetfoot people. Now I'm getting $20 a week unemployment.
Jimmy!
Honey, you get fired, too, and we can afford a motel of our own.
Listen to Young Love, the new CBS college story, again next week at this same time. Starring Jimmy Lydon and Janet Waldo. With John Heaston, Gil Stratton Jr., Alan Reed, Hans Conried, Ed Max, Ruth Parrott, your announcer Roy Rowan, the Judd Conlon choristers, and the music of Elliot Daniel, conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Young Love is written and directed by Lawrence and Lee. This is CBS, where 99 million people gather every week, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Arthur Godfrey, who usually comes around with his talent scouts about this time on Monday, is off on a summer holiday, but he'll be back next week at this time over most of these same CBS stations.
Jimmy, they say that married people aren't really in love until they've had a fight.
Well, how about that time outside Derby Hall?
Well, that wasn't a fight. You just lost your temper.
I lost my temper.
Yes.
You lost your temper.
I did not lose my temper. You were just acting like a schoolboy,
Hey,
that's all.
Hey,
I wouldn't
Jan,
stand for some of the
honey,
crazy...
I guess we're in love, all right.
Yep, that's Jan and Jimmy, the secretly married young couple on our campus. A frightening reminder of what can happen to you if you fall in love.
I love you truly.
No, not that stuff. Young love.
No. Truly dear.
Welcome to the new college story, Young Love, starring Tenant Waldo and Jimmy Leiden, with John Heaston, the Judd Conlon choristers, and Lud Gluskin at his orchestra.
I love you truly, 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 so truly dear.
Jimmy, have you got the flash bulb?
Sure, honey. I've got a flash bulb in each hip pocket.
Well, don't sit down. Now, let's see. I guess this is Professor Wright's office.
Huh? I didn't know they had classes way back here. I thought this was the furnace room.
Well, that's exactly why I'm covering this for journalism assignment. Jimmy, we're going to meet one of the big celebrities on campus, and nobody knows about her.
Come in.
Professor Wright?
Are you the young lady who just telephoned me?
Yes. Could we see her now?
I think so. If the little beauty isn't asleep.
Oh.
Now brace yourselves, students, because you're really going to get a thrill when you meet Maudine.
That's her name? Maudine?
Maudine Ormsby. 973 pounds of pure loveliness.
That's a lot of loveliness.
You just follow me. And let's keep our voices down, shall we? Like all well-bred girls, Maudine gets a little nervous around strangers.
Oh, we'll be quiet, Professor Wright.
Now, one moment, Yoo-hoo. Maudine, may I bring some visitors to see you?
What did she say?
It's all right. She blinked at me. You may come in.
Gosh.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Oh, wait till you see her with her blanket off. Say hello to the people, Maudine. Say hello.
Oh, I've got to get a picture of her just like that.
You want me in the picture, too? Looking fatherly?
Oh, that'd be very nice.
Don't you dare snap it yet. You wait till I scoot around here so you can get both Maudine's and my best sides.
I'll hold my flashbulb back here, by her porterhouse.
Please, Maudine is a lady.
Well, here we go. Hold still, please.
Smile, Maudine. Did the nasty flashbulb hurt her eyes?
Well, we didn't dazzle her porterhouse any. My flashbulb didn't go off.
Well, I think the picture will come out. Professor Wright, tell us something about Maudine's background.
Well, now, we in animal husbandry are mighty proud of Maudine. She's a purebred Jersey, and she's won 15 blue ribbons.
15?
And she's all cow, from her eyelashes to her pot roast. And she's intelligent, too. Smart as a whip.
Smart, huh? Maudine, tell us, what do you think of the world situation? Well, it's about as intelligent a comment as I've heard for a long time.
Jimmy, wait up.
Oh, hi, Larry.
Where the heck have you been?
Helping Jen with a journalism assignment.
A fine politician you are. The biggest election of the year, and you aren't doing your part to get votes.
Get votes?
For the campus beauty queen. You gotta get out and campaign for our candidate.
Okay, I'll campaign. I'll work like blazes. I'll get our candidate elected. Who is she?
Mitzi Bellingham.
Mitzi Bellingham for beauty queen? Well, she's got a face like a bowl of puffed rice.
Well, she's got nice ankles. Hey, and if you want personality, Mitzi Bellingham has real electricity.
Well, maybe she's AC and I'm DC. Look, why don't you run somebody really beautiful like my girl, Janet?
Einstein, beauty has nothing to do with electing the beauty queen. It's all politics. Mitzi Bellingham was chosen in a smoke-filled room.
Yeah, it must have been so smoky you couldn't see what you were looking at.
Oh, you know, Jimmy, everything in campus politics is done by the machine. Last year, the Phi Pies got the beauty queen because the Gamma Kappas voted with the Phi Pies. This year, it's the Phi Pies' turn to vote for the Gamma Kappas.
And Mitzi Bellingham is a Gamma Kappa.
No, she's an Omicron Iota. But the Omicrons have a side deal with the Gamma Kappas. And as the Gamma Kappas go, so goes Midwestern.
Well, where do I go? It's all Greek to me.
Jimmy, you are appointed chief ward healer for the sophomore men.
Okay, I'll go out and heal a few wards. Is that all, boss?
Now remember, the machine's not only running Mitzi Bellingham, we're also running Sally Ames, Jeannie Cook, Sylvia Schwartz, and Janet Shaw.
Huh? You put up Janet for beauty queen?
Just names, kid. Decoys to split up the independent vote. The rest of the students on the campus divide their votes among 5 candidates. But the machine, disciplined, organized, whipped into line, votes solid for 1 candidate. Mitzi Bellingham is in the bag.
That's exactly where she belongs.
Get out there, boy. Get out the vote for Mitzi.
You mean I got a campaign against my own wife?
What did you say?
Well, I said, not on your life.
I distinctly heard you say, my own wife.
Well, Larry, you know how it is. You dream about these things at night. I've got a very vivid imagination.
Yeah. I didn't think for 1 minute. No, I never thought for 1 minute that beautiful girl was married.
Why, of course not.
To you?
Yeah.
Now, go out there and fight, kid. And remember our campaign slogan, the candidate with a purpose.
Hey, exactly what is the purpose of our candidate?
To get elected.
Mitch, this is dirty pool.
How can I help your problem, Einstein? I'm just a poor, downtrodden professor of journalism.
Well, can't we do something? This election isn't democratic. I'm just a tool of machine politics.
Who's the boss Tweed of this setup?
Larry. I ask you, Mitch, how can a guy who's married to a girl, only nobody knows he's married to the girl, go out and campaign for another girl against the girl that nobody knows he's married to?
Would you mind going over that again with footnotes?
Mitch, what am I going to do?
Why don't you fight him, Jimmy? Buck the machine.
Oh, you can't. The campus political machine hasn't lost an election since Dewey's victory.
Dewey's victory?
At Manila Bay.
Hey, what would happen if you went out and beat the drums for your wife? If Jan isn't more beautiful than Mitzi Bellingham, I'm Mighty Joe Young.
Oh, Mitch, we're whistling in the dark. Fate has put the finger on Mitzi.
Oh, it's a crime. I'd vote for your wife. She's not only beautiful, she's smart. Look at this assignment she just turned in. She took a dull subject like a prize-winning cow and made it into a fascinating article. Look, pictures and everything.
I helped her with it.
What part did you do, Einstein?
The last half. Of the cow. I held the flashbulb back there that didn't go off.
Kid, you're a born reporter.
Hey, Mitch, is Jimmy Lewis in there?
Who's that?
Boss Tweed. Come on in, Larry.
Oh, disaster has struck. Mitzi Bellingham has just flunked biology.
So what?
No gal who flunks a subject is eligible for beauty queen. We got the machine all geared up to sweep our candidate to victory, and now we haven't got a candidate.
Well, let's run Jan.
Einstein, she's already been nominated for the opposition. That would be like running a senator from Alabama and then having him suddenly turn around and vote Republican. Look, in 20 minutes we're starting the Torchlight Parade. Before we had a candidate with a purpose. Now we got a purpose with no candidate.
Maybe I can be of assistance. Now, what does a girl have to have in order to be beauty queen?
Well, she's got to be a girl.
That's reasonable.
She should be beautiful.
Now, if she'd won some prizes for her beauty, that would help, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'd be great. You know somebody like that, Mitch?
Boss, I'd like to nominate for your political machine a real beauty, Maudine Ormsby.
Huh?
Maudine Ormsby? I don't think I know her.
No, she moves in a very select circle.
Have I ever had a date with her?
Jimmy, do you think Larry ever had a date with Maudine?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure Maudine would go out with Larry.
She's pretty choosy, huh? Oh, I think I remember her. Didn't I dance with her once at the junior prom?
If you ever danced with Maudine Ormsby, you'd remember it.
Ormsby. Where's she from?
Oh, I don't know exactly.
Oh, I remember. She's a Jersey girl.
She come from a nice family?
Well bred.
Say, you don't happen to have a picture of her, do you?
Well, the only picture I have doesn't do her justice.
Yeah, it's a little dark in back.
Doesn't show all her good points.
Well, Mitch, if you think so much of her, the machine will sweep her to victory and crown her beauty queen. Hey, one other thing. Is she okay in her studies?
She's never flunked a subject.
Take my word for it, Larry. Maudine Ormsby is strictly grade A.
Honey, don't you understand? This is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
It's not a camel, it's a cow, and the straw won't break her back. She'll probably eat it.
Oh, no, that's not what I mean. The political machine is dead. Believe me, if it elects a cow, the campus beauty queen.
Oh, it's the silliest thing I ever heard of.
Well, of course it's silly.
The students at Midwestern have got too much sense. They wouldn't vote for a cow.
Look, honey, the students here don't vote because of sense. They vote the way the political machine tells them. Besides, nobody knows she's a cow. Except you and me and Mitch and Maudine and her immediate family.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody.
No, you're not.
I am.
You're not.
We're fighting.
You're darn right we're fighting.
Oh, it's my fault, too. I introduced you to her.
To who?
To Maudine Ormsby. Oh, Jimmy, it's so humiliating.
What's humiliating?
Well, I'm in this beauty contest, too. It'd be bad enough to be beaten by Mitzi Bellingham, who's almost a cow. Now you fixed it so I'll be beaten by a real cow.
We'll be back with Jan and Jimmy in just a moment. That man is coming back again. Yes, Arthur Godfrey is returning from his summer vacation, and he'll be helping some promising young performers up the ladder of success when Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts return to the air next Monday night over most of these same CBS network stations. Along with Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, you can hear such great shows as My Friend Irma, Inner Sanctum, the Lux Radio Theater, and The Bob Hawk Show. All on Monday nights, and all on CBS. Now back to Jimmy and Janet and the second act of Young Love.
Hey, gang, who do we want for beauty queen?
Maudine for beauty queen.
Vote for Maudine Ormsby. Don't be cowed by other candidates.
Maudine for beauty queen.
Full of the milk of human kindness. Children cry for her.
Maudine for beauty queen.
This is the candidate for you and no bull.
Hey, Jim, some of the gang want to get a look at Maudine Ormsby.
Well, you don't think Maudine Ormsby is the kind of a girl who'll go out campaigning for herself.
She sure is a dark horse.
No, but you're getting warm.
Fellow students, I give you one of Maudine Ormsby's closest friends, Jimmy Lewis, who will tell you why she is our candidate for beauty queen. Jimmy?
I am for Maudine Ormsby because she has beauty in such large quantities.
Is she a blonde or a brunette?
Which do you prefer?
Blonde. Brunette.
Well, she's a little of each. Maudine pleases everybody.
Well, how are her politics?
Oh, she's strictly middle of the road.
Sounds like a fence sitter.
The fence hasn't been built that Maudine Ormsby would sit on. I tell you, fellow students, people look at Maudine Ormsby and they just want to eat her up. In this election, we have a lot at stake.
Excuse me, please. May I ask one question? Just who is Maudine Ormsby?
Throw that bum out of here!
Mitchell,
Yes, Dean Ferguson.
as faculty advisor to student affairs, you're certainly doing a grand job.
Well, thank you, Dean.
Take this student election. I watched their torchlight parade last night from my office window. Well done. Reminded me of a rally we once had for James A. Garfield.
Well, he wouldn't have had a chance in this election.
What? Oh, you mean for Beauty Queen? James Garfield wouldn't have made a very good showing with that beard.
That's very funny, Dean Ferguson.
You think so? Mitchell, have you noticed a change in me lately?
A change?
I've been trying very hard of late to unbend. To be more, as they say in the song, a jolly good fellow.
Oh, you're that all right, Dean Ferguson.
It all started, Mitchell, a week or so ago, when I got my new bifocals.
Bifocals?
As you know, in addition to my administrative duties, I still teach one class in medieval history.
Oh, yes, of course.
Heretofore, my entire classroom has just been a blur. But with these new glasses, Mitchell, I've seen things in the first 2 rows I didn't know existed.
Why, Dean, you mean...
I certainly do. How shall I put it? It's like football. Although I'm too old to play, I still enjoy observing the game.
Yes.
Now, you know most of the student body, Mitchell. That's worth knowing. Tell me, which of the little darlings is Maudine Ormsby? I'll just bet she's that little blonde in my medieval history class who sits at the end of the second row with her legs crossed.
I doubt if Maudine Ormsby is in your medieval history class, Dean, and I'm sure she's never crossed her legs.
Well, no matter. She must be a beautiful child. And, Mitchell, I'll tell you what I have in mind. What would happen if I escorted the beauty queen to the dance on Saturday night?
Well, now, Dean Ferguson...
What would happen if I brought the beauty queen into the ballroom on my arm?
But
What would happen if we led the grand march together? And then I whirled her around the floor for the first sweetheart waltz?
It could be quite a whirl.
Well, glad you agree, Mitchell. I'm definitely going to do it.
Oh.
You ought to make the student body realize I'm more of a human being.
Right now, I'm trying to figure a way to make the beauty queen more of a human being. Larry, Jimmy, Council of War.
What's the matter, Mitch?
Gee, you look terrible. Did you get some of that bad corned beef at the cafeteria?
Oh, please don't mention the word beef.
Was something wrong with Maudine?
Don't tell me she flunked out. Oh, the machine can't have another candidate fall flat on her face.
Maudine has just fallen flat on all fours.
But the machine has never done such a selling job. I tell you, Maudine Ormsby is rolling across the campus like a bulldozer.
Please don't say bulldozer.
Why not?
Oh, somehow it's not appropriate. Now, look, do you think Maudine has a chance to be elected?
A chance she can't lose.
Once the machine gets rolling behind a candidate, she's in.
I tell you, you've got to shift the machine into reverse.
That's a funny thing about political machines. They've got lots of speeds forward, but they don't back up.
Oh, fine political boss you are. All you can do is elect people. You don't even know how to get a candidate unelected.
Well, what can I do? Half the kids have voted already. Their ballots are already in.
Guys, I can't tell you how important this is. As faculty advisor, I'm responsible for these things. The whole thing was my idea in the first place. And if a certain dean of men finds out who Maudine Ormsby really is...
He'll send you to the slaughterhouse.
Huh?
Please, Einstein, get your mind out of Armour and Company. I know. I got it. We'll stuff the ballot boxes.
Professor Mitchell, I'm a pretty shady character, but I'm not that crooked.
Oh, brother.
Mitch, what's wrong? Is Maudine Ormsby a turkey? Is she going to lay an egg?
Larry, if Maudine Ormsby lays an egg, that'll really make history.
Dean Ferguson is taking the beauty queen to the dance?
That's what he says.
Oh, well, I'm glad I don't have a chance to win. Can you imagine waltzing around with old Walrus Puss?
Can you imagine old Walrus Puss waltzing around with Maudine Ormsby? You imagine old Walrus Puss waltzing around with Maudine Ormsby.
I think they'll make a very attractive couple.
Kids, the dean isn't going to think it's funny. This guy has a sense of humor that is strictly from medieval history. Dean Ferguson hasn't cracked a smile since the Norman Conquest.
I don't think Maudine's going to be so happy with the dean.
Oh, she might be pleased. He looks a little like Bull Durham.
Very funny. Now, look, let's start a machine of our own. Jimmy, if we really get out and work, maybe we can get Janet elected instead of Maudine.
No, I won't play second fiddle to a cow.
Jan, look, if the dean thinks I pulled this thing as a joke on him, I could get kicked off the faculty.
Oh, Mitch, we won't let that happen.
No, we'll do everything we can to make it Queen Jan instead of Queen Maudine. Students, listen to me. When you go in there to vote, cast your ballot for Janet Shaw.
Turncoat, yesterday you were for Maudine Ormsby.
But she's a cow.
Ah, sour grapes.
Fellow students, if I'm elected Beauty Queen, I'll do everything in my power to be Beauty Queen.
How about Maudine Ormsby?
She's a cow!
Oh, lady, that ain't a nice way to talk about a rival candidate.
Hey, Larry, what's the latest return?
Janet's making a good showing, but Maudine Ormsby's leading by an eyelash.
Any new returns?
It's neck and neck.
Whose neck is out farthest?
Frankly, Mitch, I think yours is.
Hey, here's the latest report. Finals for the junior class. Maudine Ormsby, 371 votes. Janet Shaw, 369 votes. And 1 vote for William Jennings Bryan. We have a joker in the junior class.
Hey, here's the final tally. Out of 1,917...
Forget the numbers. Who won?
Our candidate and the new beauty queen of Midwestern, Maudine Ormsby.
The machine has done it again!
Isn't this a lovely dance? Just think they brought the band all the way from Chillicothe.
Mitchell, I'm so nervous.
Nervous? You're nervous.
No, tell me, what do I do when the beauty queen makes her grand entrance?
Well, I guess you'd give her the flowers.
Flowers? Oh, yes, these orchids. Do you think she'll want to wear them in her hair, or shall I pin them to her dress?
I'm not sure she's got any hair.
What?
And she may not be wearing a dress.
Mitchell, what kind of a dance is this?
Mitch, the beauty queen is here. Shall I have Jimmy lead her in? He's out there holding her by the halter.
Holding her by the halter?
Now is as good a time as any. Go to it, kids. Dean Ferguson, you are about to meet your blind date.
I'm excited as a puppy.
Students and faculty members of Midwestern, I give you our newly elected campus beauty queen, Maudine Ormsby.
Mitchell, this is the little cutie I'm supposed to waltz around the dance floor.
Dean, if you don't feel up to it...
Up to it? Oh. This is the funniest thing I've heard of since the tale of the wife of Bath in Chaucer. This is droll, Mitchell, quite droll. You mean to say the student body actually elected a cow?
It was engineered by the political machine.
Well, it shows what the voters can get if they just vote the way they're told to. Great political moral here, Mitchell.
Glad you see it that way, Dean.
It's really legitimate. She's enrolled in the animal husbandry department.
And she's never flunked the subject.
And she's a girl.
I'm not kicking. From the dean to Queen Maudine, I offer you this garland of orchids.
Well, that's the only beauty queen in Midwestern history who ever ate her corsage.
Miss Ormsby, would you care to dance? Well, if you don't feel quite up to it, I just as soon sit this one out.
No, wait! Stop everything! Stop!
Why, Professor Wright, you seem disturbed.
May I ask what Maudine is doing here? Away from a nice warm stall in animal husbandry?
She had to be here.
Maudine Ormsby has been duly elected the beauty queen of Midwestern University. She's my date, Professor Wright. My dancing partner.
Well, you better make it just once around the floor, Dean. It's almost milking time.
We'll return to Young Love in just a moment. Remember, next Monday, Arthur Godfrey and his talent scouts will be back from summer vacation, along with Lux Radio Theater, My Friend Irma, and Bob Hawke. Along with Inner Sanctum, these great radio shows promise you perfect Monday night listening through the fall, winter, and spring. Arthur Godfrey's talent scouts, Lux Radio Theater, My Friend Irma, Bob Hawke, and Inner Sanctum will be heard on most of these same CBS network stations. After this program, stay tuned for Joan Davis, starring in Leave It to Joan, which follows Young Love on most of these same CBS stations. Now, back to the campus of Midwestern University.
Gee, Jan, it's wonderful being alone with you, even if it's only for 10 minutes.
I love it down here by Mirror Lake. Just you and me and the lake and the crickets.
And no cows.
Jimmy, you don't think Maudine is prettier than I am, do you?
Well, she's beefier.
Listen.
Yeah, the Sigma Chi's are serenading their dates home.
It's romantic.
Listen to them. They're singing about their sweethearts. I don't have to mess around with any old sweetheart.
What?
I got a wife.
You're sure you're happy, Mr. Lewis?
Happy? Why, it's impossible for anybody in the world to be as happy as I am right now. Mrs. Lewis, you've heard about contented cows, haven't you?
Sure.
Well, listen to my contentment.
You've been listening to Young Love, starring Jimmy Lydon and Janet Waldo, with John Heaston, Gil Stratton Jr., Hans Conried, Herb Butterfield, Peter Leeds, the Judd Conlon Choristers, and your announcer, Roy Rowan. Music was composed by Elliot Daniel and conducted by Lud Gluskin. Young Love is written and directed by Lawrence and Lee. We're leaving the air tonight, and you'll be hearing Arthur Godfrey and his talent scouts back from summer vacation in this half hour next week. Your enthusiastic letters and cards have told us that you've enjoyed our summer series, so Young Love will be returning to the air soon. Watch your newspapers and keep listening to your favorite CBS station. Until then, so long from Jan and Jimmy, the campus of Midwestern University, and Young Love. An emergency announcement from the U.S. Forest Service. Woods and forests are tinder dry, and the danger of fires is critical. Please exercise extreme care when smoking or building forest fires of any kind. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Well, we could get better acquainted while we're listening to Fanny Philpott Burns.
Fanny would be a distracting influence.
She's an authority on things like getting acquainted.
Well, so am I. Ask me some questions. On this subject, I'm Phi Beta Kappa material.
Jimmy, she's my favorite novelist, and I just couldn't miss seeing her in person.
Okay, go to your old lecture. I'll be down by Mirror Lake getting acquainted by myself.
We enjoyed it.
We all enjoyed it.
Oh, Miss Burns, I want to tell you that I just loved your lecture.
Why, thank you, dear.
I've read all your novels. I cried in Softly Flows the Monongahela when the Indian princess went to the happy hunting grounds.
I cried when I wrote it, child.
Miss Burns, could I have just 2 minutes alone with you to ask your advice about something? Something secret.
Well, I'm not too old to remember when I was a student on this campus and had my little problems. Close the door. Now, tell me what's the trouble, child.
Miss Burns, you won't tell anybody, will you?
Well, if it's a juicy little secret, I might sneak it into one of my novels.
Oh, you couldn't.
Don't worry, dear. I always mangle the facts enough so they can't sue me.
Miss Burns, I'm married.
And your husband has deserted you?
No.
Then you don't love him. You're like Maudine in Wrap the Night Around Me. You want to run off with another man.
Oh,
no. Then he's cruel. He tortures you. Your life is a turmoil of mental anguish. You suffer like Gretchen in They Seek But Love.
Oh, no, Miss Burns. Jimmy is very sweet and nice, and we're very much in love.
You know, this is pretty dull stuff.
But we have to keep it secret. I'm on a scholarship that's just for single women, and Jimmy promised his father he wouldn't get married until he was a bachelor of arts.
And you're asking yourself, did you do the right thing?
Yes. Miss Burns, do you think we should have waited? He's at the fraternity house, and I have to live at the girls' dorm, and... Well, I don't even know if he snores or not.
Well, I will answer your question by telling you a story about a little girl, much like yourself, who attended this university many years ago.
Yes.
Arthur Godfrey, who usually comes around with his talent scouts about this time on Monday, is off on a summer holiday. He'll be back with us 3 weeks from tonight on August 29th.
Jimmy, I wish we could make Professor Mitchell as happy as we are. Let's help him find a wife to marry.
I got a better idea. Let's find him a single girl.
How about those kids? They're always talking about love.
I love you truly.
No, not that kind. Young love.
Oh! Truly dear.
Welcome to the new college story, Young Love, starring Janet Waldo and Jimmy Lydon, with John Heaston, the Judd Conlon choristers, and Wilbur Hatch in his orchestra.
I love you truly, 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 so truly, dear.
Jimmy, do you know who's here on the campus?
Dean Ferguson?
No, he's been here for 40 years. I mean somebody famous.
Guy Madison.
No, a woman.
Esther Williams?
No, an older woman.
Esther Williams' mother.
Jimmy, be serious. If it hadn't been for this woman, I might never have married you. Because her books taught me so much about romance and love and men.
I give up. Who is this dame you're talking about?
Fanny Philpott Burns.
Yeah, sure. Fanny Philpott Burns. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, I'll bet you haven't read a single novel that Fanny Philpott Burns wrote. I'll bet you never even heard of Fanny Philpott Burns.
I bet you've never heard of Pee Wee Reese.
What did he write?
Where even?
Jimmy, Fanny Philpott went to school here at Midwestern. She wrote those great novels, They Seek But Love, and Wrap the Night Around Me.
Yeah.
Then there's her masterpiece. It's so sensitive and delicate and fragile. Softly Flows the Monongahela.
What's it about?
Pittsburgh. Just think, Jimmy. After her lecture tonight, maybe we can meet her in person.
Oh, you're kidding. After I've sweated through lectures since 8 o'clock this morning? You can't drag me out to one tonight. I don't want to listen to any stuffy old novelist.
What would you rather do?
I know I got an answer for that. Jan, I thought maybe we'd go for a walk down by Mirror Lake, and get better acquainted.
Professor Storm in her first novel. I looked up into the professor's strong face. He was tall, witty, blond. He had the mind of a Socrates and the body of a Red Grange. I looked up into his strong face again, and I said to myself, I love him. This is the man I love. I love him. I love him. Yes, I love him. Jimmy, what do you get from this?
She loves him.
But who is it? Who is the professor? Tall, blonde, popular, built like a football player.
Could be Mitch.
That's it, Mitch. That's exactly the way I figure it. Nobody else on the faculty is anything like that.
Well, you mean you think Fanny, what's her name, has the GBs for Mitch?
It's obvious. The preface says this novel is frankly autobiographical.
Well, I can tell you frankly that Mitch does not have the same GBs for Fanny.
They're just getting married, that's all.
Oh, you're crazy. Mitch can't stomach her. He went to her lecture, stayed 10 minutes, and couldn't take any more.
Of course, he was overcome with emotion. There was his old sweetheart on the platform, and he couldn't reach her. He got all choked up.
Well, that isn't exactly the way Mitch put it.
Jimmy, it all adds up. Mitch stood up with us and helped us with our wedding plans. Now we've got to do the same for him.
Jan, honey, where did you get all this marriage talk?
I got it straight from the horse's mouth. Fanny told me.
Professor Mitchell.
Yes, Dean Ferguson?
Mitchell, I've called you into my office to discuss the relationship between a man and a woman.
That can be an interesting subject for discussion. Shall I close the door?
Mitchell, you may think of me as something of an old fuddy-duddy.
Oh, no, Dean Ferguson.
No, don't butter me up. I know some of the things that are said about me at the faculty club. I even know that some of the students have on occasion referred to me as walrus puss.
Not for a minute.
Let's not be kind, Mitchell. This may strain your imagination, but there was a time when my puss wasn't quite so walrusy. Matter of fact, in my younger days, I looked very much like you. I was blonde then, before these locks turned to gray, what's left of them. I was athletic then. Didn't have this. Could see my feet. Even played a little football. Center field. Didn't have shoulder pads in those days. Bare-knuckle stuff. Extremely rough and tumble.
Why, Dean, this is a side of you I didn't know existed.
Oh, Mitchell, there's a visitor on the campus at the moment who knew that side of me very well. In fact, when she was a student here and I a young professor, we were quite chummy. I believe that's the word they use nowadays.
Fanny Philipot Bird.
How did you know?
I just put two and two together.
You don't think that anybody else, there aren't any rumors afoot. Do you think anybody suspects?
I don't think so.
Fanny was a little indiscreet in one of her first novels. Have you read They Seek But Love?
Yes.
You like it?
I loved it.
Mitchell, I may as well let the cat out of the bag. I am the handsome, dashing, muscular Professor Storm. Please don't tell anybody.
Well, your secret is safe with me.
Now, after 19 years, I've asked Fanny the question I should have asked her 19 years ago, and she's accepted me. After 19 years.
Sounds like a red-hot thing.
Now, mind you, I'm proud to have Fanny as my bride, but there are factions among the trustees who would consider Fanny a woman of notoriety. So I feel we should keep our marriage a secret until President Wrightson decides what he's going to do about his health.
Well, what does President Wrightson have to do with it?
Of course, we're all disturbed about President Wrightson's illness, but he is an older man. And if his health should take a turn for the worse, my name has been mentioned as a possible successor as president of the university.
Aha. Gotcha. We don't want Fanny to stand in the way of your being President Ferguson.
It does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I can hardly ask the dear girl to wait any longer.
Hardly.
Mitchell, I need your help. Would you scour around, quite discreetly, of course, and find a suitable marrying official, arrange the time and place, and stand up with us? In short, I'm asking you to help Fanny and me get hitched.
Jan, Jimmy, I want you to do me a favor.
Anything you say, Mitch.
You name it.
I want you to get in touch with that justice of the peace who married you.
A justice of the peace.
What for?
A wedding. What do you think? I want to register a horse?
Don't you worry about it, Mitch. You've got enough on your mind. We'll get him for you.
Leave it to us.
Swell, kids. See if he can come to my apartment tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock.
We'll get him.
He'll be there.
Great. Hey, keep this kind of on the QT, huh?
Sure thing.
See you later.
So long, Mitch.
She fell in love with a man here on this campus. There was a difference in their ages, and she thought she would be prudent, deny her love and wait. They drifted apart, and that little girl was left alone with a lamp, a typewriter, and a hollow thing called fame.
It was you, Miss Burns.
How did you guess? Do you know why I've returned to Midwestern? Not to lecture alone. That little girl has come back to claim her first love.
Oh, are you really marrying somebody here at Midwestern?
Mm-hmm. I can't possibly tell you who it is, but he's proposed to me, and I've agreed to become his blushing bride.
Oh, Miss Burns, can an old married lady like me wish you much happiness?
Oh, thank you, child. You can read all about my honeymoon in my new novel, Other Mornings, Other Noons.
You've written all about your honeymoon even before you've had it?
Well, my publishers thought it would be better copy that way.
What does the title mean? Other Mornings, Other Noons.
Who knows? Nobody buys a book these days if the title makes sense. Anyhow, it'll be out in September, and it's $2.85 COD. And I just happen to have an order blank with me.
Jimmy, I sympathize with you.
Well, do you think I was a crumb not to go to the lecture with Jan?
I congratulate you, Einstein. Any man who declares himself against Fanny Philipot Burns should be photographed for a liquor ad. I stayed at her lecture for 10 minutes, but that was all I could take. My stomach got unsteady.
Isn't she supposed to be a great novelist?
Fanny Philipot Burns couldn't write her way out of a paper bag. In her novels, all the women suffer, all the men are heels, and all the writing is from hunger.
You don't think much of her, do you?
I'll say this much for her. She punctuates beautifully. Brother, what Fanny Philipot Burns has done to the English language shouldn't happen to Sanskrit.
Jimmy, I think I just made a great discovery.
Well, what are you doing with that book, Jan?
Some literary detective work. Listen to how Fanny Philipot Burns describes